chapter 7, and it's the beginning of part 2, called The 3 E's. And chapter 7 begins on page 61, The 3 E's. And we're at Tuesday, August 29th. So my room is more like an enclosed hallway than a bedroom. I can stand in the middle of it with my arms spread and touch two of the walls with my fingertips. Aunt Doris and Uncle Don have been helping us unpack and move the stuff the house can't hold to a storage place. Midway through the first day, we found 2 air conditioning units, which was a huge relief. The units sound like chainsaws, but we don't care. During the day, the house is like the inside of an active volcano. Last night we went over to Mom's space, which is exactly what it is, a big empty space that seems even more empty after our temporary shack, as Mom calls it. They started talking about where the bookshelves, counter, and cash register would go. Wanda began measuring the space, which is Joanne, with a steel tape measure. I sat down on the floor and watched. Mom said that she wanted to open the store by November so she can take advantage of the Christmas buying season. While they were talking, Uncle Don came over to me and asked if I wanted to go for a walk. I told him that I didn't feel like it, and he made it clear that it wasn't a request, which meant we were going for a walk, for a talk and not a walk. This was not the first time we've had one of those. Uncle Don is probably in his early 30s. Brown hair, brown eyes, over 6 feet tall, and in great shape. He resembles Dad in a lot of ways, but he doesn't have Dad's sense of humor. We crossed Idaho Street, which wasn't very busy at that time of night, and walked past the casino parking lot that was full of buses, cars, and RVs. It was cool out, and I wished I had brought my jacket. And when the sun sets over Elko, it's like switching a heater off. Uncle Don told me I would have to keep my eyes open, that if I saw anyone hanging around our house or school or who didn't look or feel right, I was supposed to have Mom call him immediately. If there's a problem, he said, we can be in Elko in a matter of hours. I asked him if anyone in Elko knew who we really were. He said nobody knew. Not the police, not the school I was going to, no one. As far as anyone in Elko knows, we are the Grangers from Portland, Oregon. Our father took off a couple of years ago and Mom moved Wanda and me down here because she was tired of the city. Blah, blah, blah. If you slip up and blow your cover, he told me, no matter how minor it might seem, I want you to tell your mother. This made me mad because everyone thinks I'm the one who's going to slip up. He said that from his experience, people my age have a hard time grasping the fact that we and our families are in real danger. He couldn't remember how many times they've had to relocate a family because a kid told a friend, a girlfriend, or a boyfriend who they really were. Uncle Don and Aunt Doris took off a couple of hours ago, saying they hoped they never saw us again, which would mean that our relocation was a success. I knew they would have to leave one day, but I didn't think it would be so soon. One or both of them have been with us for the past month. Aunt Doris said it was time for the Granger family to get on with their lives. If you take the V out of lives, what do you get? Mom has the space shuttle postcard pinned to the refrigerator with a magnet, and every time I see it, I think of Dad. I wonder how long it will be before she sends it. You gotta get a grip, Zach, Wanda said. Zach closed his journal. He was sitting on the sofa in the living, dining, family room, watching a black and white John Wayne World War II movie on television as he wrote. The screen was so close to the sofa, it was like watching the movie in a theater. Their mother had gone to the bookstore to interview contractors. Zack had wondered why his sister had not gone with her like she usually did. Now he knew. Wanda had stayed at home to have a heart-to-heart with her little brother, Zack. He resented how easily this name came out of her mouth, as if he had been born with it. "Are you listening to me?" She would have blocked his view if there had been room in front of the television in his face. "It's sort of hard not to," Zack sighed. "All you've done since we moved in here is to sit around and watch these stupid movies and mess up the house. Your legs aren't broken anymore. What's your excuse now?" And Zack ignored the question. "These old movies are great. You could learn something from these actors." She glanced at the tube. "I don't think John Wayne has much to teach me, unless we go to war with Japan again." "You never know." "You're scaring me, Zack, and what's more, you're worrying Mom, and she has enough to think about without—" "Oh, please," Zack dismissed her. "I'm serious," Wanda raised her. "Are you going to spend the rest of your life watching TV and writing in that stupid journal of yours? Aren't you even a little curious about Elko?" She waited for him to defend himself, and Jack didn't, knowing that it would bug her a lot more than anything he could say. "I know what you're trying to do, Zack," she said, "and it's not gonna work." Jack and Joanne had gotten along pretty well until Joanne became a sophomore in high school. Up until then, they had been able to talk about any and everything. Jack had even told her about Commander If, and she hadn't laughed or made fun of him, but things had changed between them. For instance, Zack wouldn't think of telling her that Commander If had returned from Mars. Nor was he going to discuss why he was sitting in front of the television all day long, something he had never done in the past. Zack didn't understand it himself. He had heard someplace that a tragedy usually brings a family closer together. He was learning that this was only partially true. Their tragedy had certainly brought his mother and sister closer together, but somehow the whirlwind had failed to snap Zack up along with them. So it seems that Zack misses his father. "You're impossible, Zack!" Wanda shouted, and stumped 3 steps away into her bedroom and slammed the door. And Zack believed it was the theater that had separated him and his sister. The summer after her freshman year, she had joined a local theater group and found her calling in life. "I'm going to be an actress," she announced rather dramatically at dinner one night. That summer he saw her perform in 3 musicals. He had to admit that she was pretty good. She started hanging around with a group called the Thespians in her high school. Her parents got her acting, singing, and dance lessons, and somehow she was transformed into a beautiful being with perfect hair, body, nails, and makeup. She began talking funny and staying in her roles around the house. Zack friends hung around the house gawking at her lustfully, which Zack found slightly nauseating. Wanda didn't look like his sister, sound like his sister, or act like his sister. And now she didn't even have his sister's name. Zack switched the television off and stashed his journal in his laundry hamper underneath his underwear, figuring anyone willing to dig for it there deserved to read it. He walked out onto the front porch and watched a lizard scurry up the siding. "That's a dragon to you, Commander If," he said. And then he yelled back inside that he was going for a walk. Zack wandered down the sidewalk, wondering how his sister would feel if she knew that she would be stuck in Elko for the next 5 years, like he was going to be. After her senior year, the plan was for Wanda to go to college at UCLA, Los Angeles, not far from Hollywood. "Maybe the famous Wanda Granger will let me spend the summers at her mansion cleaning the pool and mowing her huge lawn," Zack fantasized. If her career started to wane, she could write an autobiography confessing that her real name was Joanne Osborne. This would get her on all the talk shows, which would lead to a remarkable comeback career. About 5 blocks from their house, Zack came to a school that looked about 100 years old. The building was a gigantic brick structure 3 stories tall. The sign outside read, Elko Middle School. Classes begin September 5th. Hope you had a super summer. Super weird is more like it, Zach muttered, wondering if this was his new school. He walked up the stairs to the front door with the intention of just peeking through the window and found the door unlocked. He stepped inside and was surprised to hear piano music echoing throughout the building. He looked in the office, hoping to ask someone in the school if the school went up to 7th grade, but no one was there. He followed the music down a wide hallway lined with open, institutional green lockers that smelled as if they had just been sprayed with disinfectant. The music led him to a dim auditorium which was unlike any grade school auditorium he had ever seen. It was huge, with row after row of velvet-covered chairs facing a wide stage with an orchestra pit in front of it. On either side of the stage were elevated box seats. Below the boxes hung lush velvet curtains, which were the same shade of blue as the chairs and stage curtains. Above him was a full balcony. The music came from a grand piano on the stage. The only light on the stage came from a small lamp lighting the sheet music and keyboard. Zach could not see the man playing, but he could hear his deep tenor voice. The words were overwhelmed by the powerful music, and so was Zach. It filled his chest and made his legs weak. He sank into the nearest seat and listened. After the piece ended, the last chord echoed through the auditorium as if it did not want to leave. Zach felt like applauding, but held his hands in his lap quietly because he wasn't sure he was supposed to be there. The sheet music rustled as the pianist removed it from the holder. The piano bench scraped against the wooden floor. The man stepped into the dim light at the edge of the stage and looked out into the dark auditorium. Zach was surprised at the man's appearance. He had expected a refined gentleman with long, delicate fingers and white, swept-back hair. A tuxedo with tails would not have shocked him. But the man standing on the edge of the stage was nothing like that. He was dressed in work clothes, khaki pants, matching shirt, and heavy boots. Hanging on his belt was a ring with at least 50 keys dangling from it. He wore a pair of dark-framed glasses. What was left of his hair was very short and gray. Zach guessed the man was in his mid-60s, and for his age he seemed to be in usually good shape. His shirt sleeves were rolled up to his biceps, which bulged under the pressure. His powerful arms hung from a thick, muscular torso mounted on a narrow waist. If Zach had not seen the man get up from the piano, he would not have believed that this was the same man who had just played and sung the beautiful song. I'm going to guess, but it's probably the school custodian who actually knows how to play the piano. Well, what did you think of it? The man asked. Zach slumped in his seat and squeaked loudly. Stay in that seat, the man shouted. I mean it. Don't move. I've been looking for that squeak since last spring. He hurried off stage, and before Zach could decide whether he should leave or stay, the house lights came on, and a moment later the man walked through the small door near the stage carrying a toolbox. You can get up now, the man said, and when Zach stood, the seat groaned. What are the chances? I swear I've sat in every seat in the house a dozen times, including the one you're sitting in, looking for that abomination. And this is the first time I've heard it sound off outside of a performance. I'm grateful to you. Jack. He was out of his mouth before he knew that he was saying it. Commander If winced. Jack what? It's Zach. Zach Granger. Well, my name's Sam Sebesta, but for most people around here, they call me Sam. He held out a rough, calloused hand that did not look like it could play a grand piano. Zach shook it, hoping that he had pulled off the name change smoothly. You're new at this school, Sam said. Well, I'm not sure this is my school. Where do you live? Over on Elm. I'll be in 7th grade. Well, this is your school then. We go up to 8th grade here. Well, thanks. Zach turned to leave. Hold on a second. What's your hurry? I just came in to find out if this is my school. Or are you new to town or just new to the neighborhood? We're from Portland, Oregon, Zach said. Sam's glasses hung from a string around his neck. He stared at Zach with the most startling blue eyes Zach had ever seen. My mom's opening a bookstore in town, Zach said, hoping that all of this was sounding more convincing. Sam continued to stare. Zach looked away. I've never seen a grade school with a theater this nice, he said, desperate to change the subject. This used to be the high school before they built the new one, Sam told him. They were going to tear this theater down, but we convinced them to refurbish the theater instead. Save them a lot of money, because they didn't have to build a regular auditorium at the high school. The high school uses this theater? For their big performances, anyway. And sometimes entertainers swing through town on their way to Las Vegas or Reno for one-night stands here. Zach wanted to leave before the subject got back to where he was from. I better be going. I'll walk with you. Sam put his toolbox on the seat to mark it and walked Zach to the front door of the school. I guess I'll see you next Tuesday, Zach. Welcome to Elko. Thanks, Zach started through the door and then stopped. I liked the song you were playing, Sam grinned. It's one of the pieces for this year's high school musical we're doing based on the Phantom of the Opera. Zach had seen Phantom of the Opera twice with his parents and sister. Wanda had played the CD for weeks, and Zach knew every song. I saw the musical in New York with my parents, Zach said. I don't recognize that song. With good reason, Sam said. We're doing our own version here, all new music. We're calling it The Opera Ghost, and we're putting on a lot more of the novel into the production. The ghost's name is Eric, Zach said. Sam's blue eyes widened. You've read the novel, Zach nodded. Written by Gaston Leroux in 1910. It was one of the books he had read in the hospital. Well, that's going to please your teachers. I bet there isn't a student in the whole school who has read the original novel. In fact, I doubt many of the teachers have read it either. I like adventure stories. That's something we have in common then. What do you do here at the school? Zach thought. He must be the music instructor or theater director. I'm the custodian, Sam said. And that is the end of chapter 7. Like I said, it's a custodian who really knows how to play the piano.